Okay. I'd like to thank the organizers for the honor of asking me to give this first talk. And also, Mr. Schultz, I don't know where you got the animal story from, but I normally tell people who start work in Catalysis that they shouldn't believe everything they read or hear. And the same goes, I guess, for what you're about to hear now. But the topic of my talk is, there we go, Fischer Tropsch process in the last 50 years. It so happens that it also is the 50th anniversary of Sasol, but I can assure you that's just a coincidence. Now, I'm going to confine this talk essentially to practical matters. But I will in the process show you how things seem to go in cycles. Processes and concepts seem to be reinvented or rediscovered every 25 years or so. And I'll give you several examples of that. Let's kick off by looking at the actual commercial Fischer Tropsch plants that have operated over the years. Firstly, in the 1940s, we had 9 German plants operating. In the early 50s, there was a plant in Brownsville, Texas, using methane as feed gas. So that was shut down because the price of methane went up. Then, the currently operating plant of the 3 Sasol plants, Sasol 1 in 55, and the 2 others in the early 80s. Then Mosgas in South Africa came on stream in 1992, and Shell shortly thereafter in the late 80s. Now, we should be falling down all the time. 6. Okay. Things have grown. If you look at the 9 German plants, the combined capacity was 660 kilotons per annum. The 3 Sasol plants currently are running around about 7,500. So things have grown a lot over the years. Okay, now when you decide to build a Fischer Tropsch plant, what do you look at? Obviously, local politics plays an important role, and certainly did in South Africa. The price of crude is not just an important factor, and also the perceived reserves of crude oil. Now, this can be a tricky business. Take, for example, the history of Sasol 1. In the late 40s, or during the 40s and in the early 50s, there was a worldwide perception that the crude oil reserves were running out. In other words, the price of crude was going to increase. That was the prediction. Based on this, South Africa built a coal-based Fischer Tropsch plant in the early 50s. But actually, during the construction of that plant, the plant was really being built, the huge oil reserves in the Middle East were discovered. And of course, this meant the price of crude did not increase as predicted. So in hindsight, I can say, well, Sasol 1 was a disaster. Well, they managed to limp along, and one of the things that made that a bit easier was the fact that they did make high-quality linear waxes, which sold at very good prices. So we survived only just. Let's look at the price of crude oil over the years and see how tricky it can be. In the early 50s, in the Sasol 1 days, the price of crude was around about $10 a barrel. Then, in the mid-70s, we had the Middle East oil crisis, the price of crude shot up. By that stage, Sasol had sorted all its problems out, and they went ahead and decided to build new big plants. And the 2 Sasol plants came on stream in the early 80s, and you can see the price of crude was well over $30 a barrel. So this time round, they hit the jackpot. They were able to pay off a lot of the capital, and even though the price of crude dropped, they could more than cover their running costs, so they were okay. But in the early 90s, the price of crude had fallen down to around about $15 a barrel, and that's when the Mosgas plant came online, and when the Shell plant came online. So they weren't too happy about matters. It continued all the way down to $10 a barrel. And as you all know, within a year, it shot back up to over $30 a barrel. So it can be a very tricky business. Maybe it's time to build another plant. Okay, let's look at the cost breakdown of a typical plant. These are just rough figures. The preparation of syngas is by far the most expensive part of the whole operation. Roughly 65% of the total plant capital and maintenance is involved in gas, making pure gas. The Fischer Tropsch section itself is about 25%, and the refinery only about 10%. Now, because syngas is so obviously expensive, you've got to make sure that you use it very efficiently. And what you will need is that the composition of the gas fed to the reactors should match what we call the usage ratio. In the case of cobalt at low temperature, the usage ratio is about 2.1, which means you need 2.1 hydrogens with 1 CO to form all the various products. That's sort of the average number, 2.1. For iron at much the same temperature, the usage ratio is quite a bit lower, and this is because of the water-gas shift reaction. It's fairly active. You have the carbon monoxide of the feed gas reacting with the product water to form CO2 and hydrogen. And this obviously affects the overall usage ratio. In the case of the high temperature process, the situation is much more flexible in that even CO2 can be converted. The reverse water gas shift followed by the Fischer Tropsch. So as long as the overall ratio of hydrogen divided by the sum of 2 CO plus 3 CO2, as long as that ratio is around about 1.1, you on paper can convert all the carbon in the feed gas. Now, in the preparation of syngas, currently we have two choices. You can either gasify coal or you can gasify methane, which is preferred at the moment. Now, both processes are highly endothermic. This means you have to burn a huge fraction of the carbon to generate the energy to drive forward the endothermic reaction. So inevitably, the carbon efficiency is going to be poor. It's not a poor process, it's thermodynamics we're up against. So in the case of coal, which is hydrogen lean, you have to burn 50% of the carbon. In the case of methane, which is of course hydrogen rich, you only need burn about 20%. And of course, because of this big difference, a coal-based plant costs about 50% higher than a methane-based plant. Now, I'm going to very quickly go over the various processes of making syngas. You'll be hearing more detail later on. This is the Sassel process, still based essentially on coal. And as you can see, it's a complex plant. And the key point I want to make is that the Lurgi gasifiers, relative to other gasifiers, operate at what I call a relatively low temperature. And because of that, you get a lot of pyro products coming out of the gasifier besides syngas. You get pitchers, you get aromatic oils, you get phenols, you get ammonia. And all of these things obviously must be extracted, purified, and sold. They are sold at profit. Don't make any mistake about that. But obviously it's a complex plant, and therefore producing the gas is expensive. Moss gas have a much easier option. They get nice, relatively clean natural gas, methane. They go through a two-stage catalytic reforming. You have the primary tubular reformers followed by the secondary thermal reformers, and you go to the Fischer Tropsch process, and then the tail gas from the Fischer Tropsch will contain quite a bit of CO2, and that's quite an important factor, and unconverted methane and things like that, back to the secondary reformers. So it's all catalytic reforming. And the gas that comes out by the combination of this feed and the other feed, the gas coming to the Fischer Tropsch, is the usage ratio is pretty well spot on. Shell have much a similar approach, but in their case, the natural gas is reformed non-catalytically, simply very high temperature reforming. Now this operation gives you a rather low hydrogen CO ratio, around about 1.7. And since they use cobalt in their Fischer Tropsch process, that gas is too rich. So what they need is an extra source of hydrogen-rich gas, and they get that very simply by catalytically reforming the tail gas. Steam catalytic reforming, that produces a relatively high hydrogen CO ratio, so the blend of the two gases meets the usage ratio. Now, Exxon will be hearing a lot more very shortly. I won't dwell on this. What intrigues me is the fact that the reform is carried out in fluidized bed reactors. Now, one assumes fluidized bed reactors usually have very high throughputs, low differential pressures, excellent heat control. So one assumes, hopefully, that the cost of syngas is much lower. I'm sure we'll hear more about that. Now, you all know all fuels and chemicals are based on carbon. And this gives an approximate idea of the relative reserves available. This is a couple of years old already, but they probably haven't changed all that much. Oil, equate that to 1. This is on an energy basis. Methane is 1.5, so there's a lot of methane around, and coal is a whopping 26. Now, these numbers can change. Let me give you an example. In the mid-1970s, round about there was a perception again that the methane reserves were drying up. So at Sasol, together with Lurgi, we ran extensive pilot plant tests to convert syngas from coal to methane. It was successful. Lurgi was happy. They designed a plant which was constructed in Great Plains in the States, and the plant operated very well. But of course, in the meantime, there's bags of methane around. So that was a short-lived project. Come back to coal. This one intrigues. 26 times more coal than oil on one list. Will we ever get back to coal? Well, certainly not in my time, I guess. Now let's have a look at the Fischer-Tropsch reactors. The Fischer-Tropsch process is highly exothermic, so it's essential to maintain steady temperature inside the units to have very good heat exchange systems. And basically there are two operating modes. We have the high temperature Fischer-Tropsch process, operating around about 320 to 350, where the objective is the production of gasoline and olefins. We use fluidized beds in these processes. Then we have the second option, which is the low temperature Fischer-Tropsch process, around about 200 to 240, where the objective is making long chain waxes. And there we use either the multitubular or the slurry phase reactor. I'm very rapidly going to go through the reactors because you're going to get a lot more detail later on in later talks. This is the old circulating fluidized bed reactor. Very briefly, we have the finely divided catalyst flowing down the standpipe in dense phase mode. It is picked up and swept up to the what I call the reaction side. So there's lean phase fluidization, and the catalyst then circulates, gets back to the hopper, and it goes round and round. So that's the circulating fluidized bed reactor, much like a cat cracker, except there's no regeneration in the cycle. These reactors were the original reactors at Sasol, and they are operated very successfully for over 30 years. There are still 3 of them operating, the big ones at Moscow. So there's nothing wrong with those reactors, but they are very big and very expensive to run and to maintain. A much better option seems to be what we call the fixed fluidized bed. This is the standard dense phase fluidized bed. You have gas coming in the bottom with suitable distributors, and it just bubbles the way through, high throughput, low differential pressure. So it seems we will get a better. Now you could ask, how come we built CFB reactors at Sasol in the first place? Now, when you design a new plant and you don't know much about it, you often have to make a choice. It depends on who you're talking to. But Sasol chose the CFB reactors designed by Kellogg. At much the same time, the Brownsville, Texas plant was built, that they put up 2 5-liter ID fixed fluidized bed reactors. But rumor had it that they had tremendous fluidization problems. So, of course, at that stage, we at Sasol were very pleased that we had chosen quite the better reactor. So we thought. Okay, but the reactor, the pilot plant reactors, which we used at Sasol R&D, were in fact fixed fluidized bed units. And we used these to develop better catalysts to study the various process conditions and how they affect the catalytics and the selectivity and whatnot. And these reactors really performed very well using the identical commercial catalysts. And they seem to outperform the circulating fluidized bed. So obviously, this provides interest in the fixed fluidized bed. But based on the fact that these rumors had been that fluidization could be a major problem, we set about studying fluidization of our particular heavy fluidized iron catalyst. So after quite a few years looking at big models and things, we decided to go ahead, and in '84 we ran the 1 meter demonstration unit very successfully. So based on that, in '89 a 5 meter ID commercial unit was commissioned in Sasselberg, and then over the years from '95 to '99 all the huge circulating fluidized bed reactors at Secunda have been replaced. Now, it's interesting. 35 years after Brown's Law, we're back at the fixed fluidized bed reactor. But at least they're working very well. Very roughly, you see the obvious advantage. These are two types of reactors on the same scale. In other words, they have the same production capacity. Same production capacity. Much smaller, much cheaper to build. They work well in all the advantages. I'm sure Anton will tell us more about it. Some of the key ones, it's 60% cheaper, lower operating costs, lower maintenance costs, and in fact, higher conversion. This is a picture of it. Now, let's go over to the low temperature Fischer-Tropsch process where the objective is the production of wax. The original Sassel reactors built in the 1950s were this type, multi-tubular, each reactor having about 2,000 tubes, about 5 centimeters ID. They are still operating after 45 years, still operating, making excellent quality wax. Shell in Malaysia put up the same reactors, but they're very much bigger reactors. And because they use cobalt catalysts, the diameters of the tubes are much narrower. So they must have tens of thousands of tubes per reactor. But these reactors are very expensive to build. They operate fine. They're easy to operate and they make good quality wax, but they're very expensive. So, the better option seems to be a slurry reactor. Much like a fixed fluidized bed, except that here we have 3 phases. The catalyst is suspended in the liquid wax, and you bubble gas through the system. It seems so much simpler. Now let's go back into history. In the 1970s, we at the Sassel R&D thought of this, and we said, well, nothing unique. Everyone knows wax cracks easily. But we took our Sassel wax and we started cracking it under mild conditions. And the stuff that didn't crack, we recycled. And we found that we could crack it to extinction without any catalyst deactivation. And furthermore, the overall diesel cut, the distillate or diesel fuel cut, was 80% of the original wax fare. And of course, being essentially linear, it had an excellent CK number. But now, at that stage, they already were constructing Sassel 2. The design was obviously made, the workforce, the construction people were on site building Sassel 2. And very foolishly or bravely, I don't know, I propose that Sassel 3 should be a wax producing plant. Of course, it was wiped off the table. But let me say it is for excellent reasons. Firstly, at that stage, it would have meant we would have had to put up probably a couple of hundred multi-tubular reactors, which would be very expensive. But much more importantly, the economics of making gasoline in the 1970s was much better than the economics of making diesel fuel. And even more importantly, the design of Sassel 2 was on the table. The construction people were on site. So all they did is move next door, and it is literally next door. They built Sassel 3. And in that way, they saved a tremendous amount of money and time. And so Sassel 3 came on stream in record time when the price of crude was over $30 a barrel. So it was really a very successful story. Okay, so the slurry reactor was obviously kept on hold. We were very busy with Sassel 2 and 3 problems, but we kept on it. And the one other snag was we had no effective way of separating the finely divided and friable iron catalyst from the wax product. It was only later on, in the 1990s, when we demonstrated successfully a method of separating the catalyst from the wax in the 1 meter diameter reactor. Now, In 1993, the first commercial slurry reactor was put up at Sassenberg. Bear in mind, now I may take you back, German chemist Kohlmann studied the Fischer-Tropsch process in a slurry bed reactor in the 1950s. 40 years later, we commercialized. Long delay, things go in silence. All right, I won't dwell on this. I'm sure Adam will look at this. The slurry bed is much cheaper. It's 75% cheaper, which is a massive improvement. It has lower operating costs. And in the case of iron catalyst, you can add catalyst online. This is an important point. Even though iron is cheap, so you can afford to keep the activity high by simply adding new catalyst all the time. So the run length is much higher with fluidized catalyst than with fixed bed catalyst, obviously. Right, that's what a slurry reactor looks like. You say, well, it looks like an FFV. In fact, it is a converted FFV reactor. Okay, let's go on now and look at the Fischer-Tropsch reactions themselves. Now, I've mentioned already that syngas is very expensive to produce, so it's obviously important to utilize the syngas as effectively as possible. In other words, you get a high selectivity of the desired product. And the variables that control selectivity are temperature, the catalyst type, whether you use iron or cobalt, the promoters. In the case of iron, K2O is a vital promoter. It has virtually no effect on the cobalt catalyst. Gas composition is important, and also the total pressure is important. Now let's look briefly at the potential catalyst that one could consider for industrial application is iron, nickel, cobalt, and ruthenium. And I've equated iron, the cost of iron, as unity. In fact, I've taken the cost of scrap iron, because that's what Sasol uses. Now, on that basis, nickel is 250, cobalt is 1,000, and ruthenium is, you can see, a whopping 50,000. I don't quite know what the up-to-date number is. Now, really, nickel is active, but at the temperatures which you would normally want to use in Fischer-Tropsch, you get a high conversion. It makes far too much methane. After all, nickel is an excellent hydrogenation catalyst. So nickel is out. Ruthenium is simply too expensive, besides which there's not enough of it in the world to build more than about one plant. So you're stuck with nickel and ruthenium. Sorry, with iron and cobalt. Now, you all know that the Fischer-Tropsch process makes a wide range of products. It ranges from methane all the way to high molecular waxes. And if you play around with the variables which I had on the slide just a minute ago, you can shift the selectivity one way or the other. And it doesn't matter how you achieve that shift, whether you're messing around with temperature or gases, you always find there's a very close interrelationship between the products. This is for the high temperature process. I've plotted methane selectivity against selectivity of some of the cuts. You can see whatever you do, there are nice interrelations. The same goes for the low temperature process, where wax is the key product, and I've plotted the wax selectivity against some of the other cuts, like gasoline, medium wax, and diesel oil, and things like that. They're always interrelationship, irrespective of how you shift the selectivity. And now the question is, how come we have these interrelationships? Now, I'm going to say something about mechanisms just now, but there's an awful lot of arguments about mechanisms. And I'm only presenting this one to indicate the point of chain growth. Whatever the differences between people, we all agree that a stepwise chain growth is involved. And this is really all I want to demonstrate here. Right at the top, you have CO, Kenny's orbit on the surface, and for the purpose of this sequence, let's say that CO somehow gets converted to CH2, and the CH2 is the monomer, the building block. Now that CH2 can either be hydrogenated straight to methane, or it can link up with another CH2 to form a C2 complex. Now that C2 complex has three options. It can either be hydrogenated to ethene, or simply diesel to ethylene. But it can also link up and get another CH2 unit to form a C3 unit, and so on and so forth. So what it amounts to is that the spread of products is going to depend on the probability of this CH2 unit inserting into the growing chain. Now, if it's simple as that, it's just a matter of probabilities, you really can sit down and calculate the likely spectrums at different chain growth probabilities. And this is what this curve represents, a pure calculation. Probability of chain growth against the observed, actual calculated spectrum. And if you compare these spectra to the ones I showed you previously, there is in fact a surprisingly good fit, except for a couple of minor exceptions. So it seems to be all a matter of, if you want to control the selectivity, you've got to control the probability of chain growth. So, okay, let me now come back and ruffle some feathers. As I said, I'm not suggesting this is necessarily the... Stop waving my arms about. So I'm not implying that this is the mechanism that I personally would go for. But let us look at the other possibilities. The carbon monoxide has to chemisorb on the surface. I don't think there's any arguments about that. What happens to it subsequently when people start arguing? Does the CO molecule dissociate completely to carbon and oxygen atoms? The carbon is then hydrogenated to the CH2 unit, and then this sequence follows. Or does the CO molecule, the chemisorb CO molecule, as it is, actually insert directly into the growing chain and is then subsequently hydrogenated to form the CH2 growing chain? Or alternatively, we can say, what about the CO, chemisorb CO being hydrogenated first to some CHOH, an alcoholic type species, and that inserts into the growing chain. Now bear in mind that alcohols are formed in large numbers. Even cobalt, which is very hydrogenated. In the old German work, you find that the oil produced can contain 40–50% alcohol. So alcohol is certainly a primary product. No way can you make alcohols from olefins. Thermodynamically, it's impossible. So alcohol must be primary product. So CO insertion or insertion of some COH is a possibility. Now, the end of the day is, these are very interesting arguments. And I'm sure the arguments will continue for many years. But personally, I remain a bit skeptical about the value of these arguments. You must say, what is important about a good Fischer-Tropsch catalyst? You need a high activity, you need a long life, and you need the selectivity of the desired product. And I'm afraid I've yet to see anyone sit down and say, right, here we have 5 possible mechanisms. They probably all are involved, but mechanism 3 is the most likely one. It accounts for 90% of the products. Based on that, I'm now going to design a catalyst that is more active, more selective, and has a longer life. I'm waiting for this golden day. Okay, let's change the subject. Now, most plants are normally built to operate at fixed temperatures and fixed pressure, simply because the syngas comes into a certain pressure. So the remaining thing of interest is to see what is the correlation between the selectivity of the feed gas and the selectivity. Now, you all realize that as the process proceeds through the reactor, the gas composition inside the reactor actually changes. But in practice, the man on the plant wants to know, when he feeds this gas, what's going to come out the other end. So let's simply try and see what's the correlation between the feed gas and the selectivity, which is the more practical side. Now, we set about looking at this, and we ran, this is the low temperature Fischer-Tropsch process. We ran our reactors with a commercial catalyst under a wide variety of conditions, pressures from 10 up to 60 atmospheres, varied the gas ratios, varied the individual partial pressures, CO2, water vapor, all these things, and we ended up with this very simple correlation. The hard wax selectivity, which is after all, which is what you want, correlates very nicely with the entry ratio of hydrogen to CO. Furthermore, the total pressure has no influence on this curve, whether you operate with 10 bar or 60 bar. It's the hydrogen CO ratio. Furthermore, the partial pressure of CO2 doesn't seem to matter. For cobalt, the situation is slightly different. Cobalt does depend on the total pressure, up to about 20 bar, 25 bar, after which it's not dependent on pressure anymore, so the entry hydrogen ratio is still an important factor. Certainly for cobalt, about 20 bar. Now the situation for the high temperature process is much more complex. If you look at the numbers, and I've actually given the table in the paper, there is absolutely no correlation between hydrogen-CO ratio of the feed gas and the, in this case I've taken the methane selected as a parameter. In the case of iron, the total pressure does have an influence. The partial pressure of CO2 does have an influence, and this is presumably indirectly due to the water-gas shift reaction. But those are facts. You increase the CO2, selectivity changes. You increase the total pressure, the selectivity changes. And it's not just the CO2 pressure that's going in. Selectivity of any total pressure. So, to account for this, and this is a bit of a completely fudged thing, and you can always justify something later on, you know. But this is a relation of the situation of the gas, the partial pressure entering the reactor, and the methane selectivity. And you can see, well, there's a reasonable correlation. This partial power is a fudge thing, but it accounts for the effect of total pressure. If you didn't have a partial power there, then the total pressure wouldn't matter. So things are more complex. Let me now go on to the kinetics of Fischer-Tropsch, and I'm going to compare the activity of cobalt and the activity of iron using these two accepted kinetic equations. The top one is by Satterfield, and the bottom one, I'll tell you a little story in a minute. The important thing I want to point out to you here is that for the cobalt catalyst, there is no water vapor turn, whereas in the iron catalyst, the water vapor turn is below the line. So as water vapor increases, the rate of reaction goes down. Now, just as a side issue, I'd like to say that at the time when we started looking at the kinetics of iron, I looked at the literature at the time and found that most of the work was done in laboratories at low pressure and very low conversion. Now, that was pretty of no value to someone interested in reducing kinetics for a commercial operation. So once again, we set in the pilot plant, we did all kinds of experiments, different catalyst loading, sticking to the commercial catalyst, both the fixed and the fluidized bed, using the commercial catalyst, changing the pressures, changing the gas composition, and different loadings too, so we get the reaction profile through the reactors. And I ended up with this equation. A year later, I discovered it had been published 20 years previously. So I reinvented the wheel, but at least we gave the wheel a good polish, I guess. Now, to come back to this equation, in the next slide I'm going to show you kinetic curves of the two cases. What I've done deliberately, I've chosen the value of K and the value of M such that in the short distance into the reactor, the conversions are the same. In other words, it's like operating a differential reactor and the two catalysts giving the same conversion. So, look at this bottom red line and the top blue line. They're both at 3.1 MPa, that's about 30 atmospheres. And this is arbitrary units, don't try to read anything into that. At the distance of 0.4 arbitrary units into the bed, the conversions of about 4%, I think I showed. So the two catalysts are equally active. And after that, there's a great divergence. The cobalt catalyst increases happily, and it goes all the way to 90% conversion. These calculations on a once-through basis. The iron catalyst starts off the same, but then it curves over quite sharply. And in this particular case, you can't get to 90%. You never, I hope you never get to there. You can end up at around about 25–30%. So this is the effect of the water vapor turn. As you produce water vapor in the Fischer-Tropsch reaction, it depresses the rate, and therefore the rate declines all the way. Now, you can say, well, there's nothing, I chose the two catalysts to give the same conversion at that spot. There's no reason why I can't take a catalyst and make it more active. You can, after all, iron is dirt cheap. You can load more iron into it, or alternatively, run at a higher temperature. So I've taken the situation with the iron catalyst is intrinsically 5 times more active. And you can see now, up to conversion of about 50%, the iron in fact is better. And after that, the cobalt again brings the hands down. So overall, cobalt seems to be a much better proposition. Let me just come back a moment. It doesn't mean you cannot get 90% conversion with iron. You can, and you do. This is a once-through basis. After all, the commercial circulating fluidized beds at Secunda get over 90% conversion. But, of course, what they do is they run through, the water in the product is knocked out, and the gas is recycled. It's about 2 to 1, 3 to 1 recycled. And you can get to high conversion. With a fixed bed, which are intrinsically lower activity, you can also get 90% conversion. We've demonstrated that. But there you need to operate 2-stage, and each stage will recycle and water knockout between stages. So you can get high conversion for cobalt, but obviously you'll need more reactors, or you have to use more recycle. So cobalt certainly remains a better proposition kinetically. All right, I'm not going to deal with all things. I want to deal just, I'm going to compare cobalt and iron, which I've been doing now. I've just pointed out that cobalt is much more active, and of course it costs 1,000 times more, so you've got to bear that in mind. Another disadvantage of cobalt, if you want to call it that, you can only operate at low temperatures, or say the wax producing mode. If you operate at higher temperatures, you make too much methane. Whereas iron has the advantage that you can use high temperatures, low temperatures, the methane is not excessive. To concentrate on the price of cobalt, I want to simply talk about crystal sizes and oxidation problems. Now, cobalt is expensive, so obviously you try and minimize the amount of cobalt that you load into your reactor. To achieve this, you need a high dispersion of cobalt on a suitable carrier. This is the standard approach. But this inevitably means that the cobalt crystals on the support, let's say the support is aluminum, the cobalt crystals must inevitably be very small. Otherwise you will get high dispersion. That's fine. So a lot of these cobalt metal atoms are exposed on the surface. That's great. But at the same time, a reasonable fraction of the cobalt metals that are exposed are also in direct contact with the alumina. Okay, now let me expand on this. Small crystals inevitably sinter faster. And in the presence of water vapor, that sintering rate is enhanced. These are facts. If you want to argue about the theory, it's another matter. But the facts are small crystals sinter faster, and under high and water vapor pressure enhances the rate. So even though you've got this beautiful dispersion, you're going to lose area faster because of the small size. Furthermore, and I'm speculating a bit, the cobalt atoms that are in direct contact with the alumina, say, remember the Fischer-Tropsch process goes through cycles. If you believe the CO dissociation concept, one instant the cobalt atom is carbide, the one next to it is oxidized by the adsorbed oxygen. The very next instant the oxide is reduced and you're back to metal. So you have metal, carbide, oxide. And all this shunting around of atoms obviously enhances sintering rate, but also while the cobalt is in the oxidized state, it can react with the alumina and form an inert aluminate, and it's lost from the process. So these are the snags and the problems of using highly dispersed cobalt. So you can say, well, this is no good, but then one can consider, well, maybe you shouldn't go for 90% conversion of cobalt. Perhaps you should compromise somewhere. Go for a high conversion. I don't know what the designers will decide, 50, 60, 70%. Knock out the water, recycle some of the gas. Alternatively, do a 2-stage operation. Knock out the water in between, and in this way, keep the partial pressure of water below a certain value. And then you will have less sintering, less aluminate formation, and therefore a longer cobalt life. Right, what's the future of the Fischer-Tropsch process? How am I doing? We see it in chemicals, since you make wonderful linear alpha olefins, and you also, of course, make linear paraffins and linear waxes. And also, we always claim that the fuels are environmentally acceptable. Very briefly, the chemicals alpha olefins, I'm going to look at the high temperature process, just 2 cups. The C6 cup contains 58% linear alpha olefins, which are extracted, purified, and sold at very high prices for producing copolymers together with ethylene. The C10 cup, as a matter of interest, there's 38% linear alpha olefins, and then also a further 20% of alpha olefins with monomethyl branches. So essentially, 58% of essentially linear alpha olefins. Now, if you pass that to a hydroformylation reaction, you'll get essentially linear alcohols, which are used in the production of biodegradable detergents. And of course, we're now talking chemicals at very high prices. Much better than using that in the petrol diesel. Okay, let's very rapidly look at the fuels of Fischer Tropsch. If you want to make gasoline, you should use the high temperature process with iron catalyst. But the alkene content is 70%, which really is far too high, it's unacceptable, and the aromatics is only 5%. Now the 5% sounds nice, but the combination of the high, these alkenes essentially are linear, remember. So the combination of essentially linear products with a low aromatics means a pretty lousy gasoline. So you've got to do something about it. So you have to first hydrogenate the whole caboodle, and then the C5, C6, you have to catalytically isomerize, and the C7 to C10, you have to platinum reform under very severe conditions, all in order to get the octane rating up, and for good measure you can add some ethers. You can get high quality, friendly, environmentally friendly gasoline, but it's going to cost you a lot more. A much better proposition, and this is the one that's popular at the moment, is the production of diesel fuel. Take the low temperature process using the cobalt catalyst, the alkenes is only 5% in the diesel cup, and aromatics 0. The C-day number is a whopping 75. Remembering what the market requires is only 45. So you can use this high quality diesel either in places where the restrictions are very rigid, or you can use it to upgrade inferior quality diesel. Now, how do we make this diesel? And this is the process that's been proposed. For round, you have natural gas, which is preferred feed, catalytically reform it, make a suitable gas for the slurry reactor, gear the slurry performance at the production of huge amounts of wax, maximize wax production, and then take the wax and selectively hydroisomerize how you crack it, and whether, of course, with a straight run diesel, overall you should be able to get about 70% diesel out of the plant. So, now, back to a bit of history. You can say this isn't new. Let me point out to you that I referred already to the fact that in the 1970s we proposed the Sasol plant, the diesel operation plant, right? And I also explained to you why it was rejected, because the economics of making diesel was much inferior to the economics of making gasoline, also the workforce, our business. I've given you that story already. So there's nothing new in this process. We had proposed it in 1970, it was rejected, but 25 years later, exactly what Shell is doing. And in fact, Sasol and Chevron, in collaboration, are building a plant in Nigeria. I'm not quite sure what's happening, what far, we'll probably find out later. But so now, this process is back in popularity. And I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Also, second Mark sees me. for an enthusiastic talk. He delivered us for another one. I've heard several in advance. And I think we should add now 86 about this talk, the personal questions. Now add our thanks to our thanks, our best wishes, particularly for his personal life, but not only for his personal life, but for the future of his professional activities, living more relaxed, in science, in teaching, in consulting, particularly your personal life. We should add our best wishes. Would you agree? On the other hand, I've been asked to hand this little piece over to Hahn. It's written on it. Fischer Tropsch on the eve of the 21st century was a mark, right? I mean, right? November 2000. And this is not a piece of gold. It's a piece of the fluid catalyst, but not the right grain size.